Hello friends, Simon Gibson here. It's Success Won't Come Calling, the podcast for people who want to be better tomorrow than they were today. And I'm here in our fantastic studio and I'm waiting for my guest this week, who is Ian Jones. Ian is an endurance athlete and ultramarathon runner. Since starting his career in 2014, he has ran some of the toughest races in the world. I'm going to be asking Ian about the mental resilience he's had to build up to complete some of these achievements. I'm going to be talking to him about his nutrition and about the other aspects of his life where he's had to show commitment and sacrifice to be able to achieve these incredible goals. And in particular, I'm going to be asking him about the next challenge he's got, which is next year, that's 2022, when Ian will be running the Marathon des Sables, which is a 250-kilometre run in the Sahara Desert in Morocco. Look forward to hearing all about that and also about what comes next for Ian. So, I think he'll be here shortly. Why don't you sit back and relax and enjoy this week's podcast episode with me, Simon Gibson, and my guest, Ian Jones. Welcome, Ian.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Not at all. Well, you're an ultramarathon runner. You're an endurance athlete. We do guest rider on the podcast. We drink whatever the guest wants. And what on earth is this you've got us on?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Unfortunately, I'm training for another ultramarathon at the moment, so I can't drink alcohol, otherwise it'd be in a single malt. So I've chosen the Weetabix on the go, which is before every ultramarathon. I have 2 or 3 of these to get quick calories in, sits easy on my stomach, and it lasts for me. So it's getting the calories in before me run and the fat.
Well, we're going to talk about nutrition quite a lot in this, but in the meantime, this is the first taste I've ever had.
Cheers.
Cheers, sir. Here's to you. That's really tasty, isn't it? Might have to do a few ultramarathons just to get all that off. So we join your journey in the middle of a quite unbelievable year. Just fill me in, first of all, your most recent ultramarathon was just last weekend. Tell me what happened there.
Yeah, that was 3 days ago, Saturday, where it was Race to the Castle, which is run by Threshold Sports. And I used that as a training one, really, basically because I've got 2 big ones coming up in the next 3 weeks. And it was also a gent who has reached out to me who's doing the Marathon des Sables next year. He'd never done ultra before. And he basically wanted someone to guide him through the ultra. He knows what I've done in the past. So I ran it with him to get him through past his marathon distance. And every step after that, his marathon distance was a PB for him, a personal best, and he managed to get it and do it well.
Brilliant.
And
how did you get on? What was it like?
It was a tough race, believe it or not. I know everywhere else in the country was nice and sunny at the weekend, but where we was up in Newcastle and up towards Bamber Castle was horrific. It was 70-kilometre winds in our face the whole route. Strong rain flew to us. Very bad visibility. Freezing cold.
Right.
But we managed it. Got through in the top 10% of the starting field. And got it in less than 13 hours, and it was 100 kilometres. So
fantastic. We did well. We're going to go back to the start just now, but the journey we've got to work through goes through the early days. You starting doing more ultramarathons right up to the Marathon des Sables, which you've mentioned there, which is this unbelievable challenge you've got waiting for you in 2022. This race this run in the Sahara. Going to be talking right the way through that journey and also what you see as being your future after that. But first of all, what was the stage of your life when you got into running seriously?
It was only in around 2015, 16, really. I was always active playing football. I was a referee, quite a decent level. But everything I was doing was team sports more than anything. Even a referee, you still got a team because you got your assistant referees with you. And unfortunately, I went through a divorce. a bit of not a lonely time, but a time where I thought I need to challenge myself a bit more, concentrate on myself, set myself some goals. So I started boxing, believe it or not. And unfortunately, very quickly, I found out I'm not a very good boxer.
You're a better marathon runner than you are a boxer.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I started boxing for work. I'm in the police. So I was boxing for the police. And the coach I had for the police team done a lot of Tough Mudders and some running and coaching. And after my first fight, I think he realised I wasn't a fighter. And so why don't you try some of this running with me? I think it was to get me away from the boxing side of it.
So Tough Mudder was the start, was it?
It was,
I think most people will probably have some idea what Tough Mudder is, but just for those of us who don't, can you just fill us in on what a Tough Mudder involves?
Yeah, it's called obstacle course racing. So it's basically on a normal Tough Mudder, it's usually a 10-mile lap. And during that, you'll have 20 obstacles. So it'll be rings, ladders that you've got to go across, water obstacles, loads of mud, obviously with the name Tough Mudder. And it's about going against your challenges. There's electrocution, there's going into ice, big skips of ice, so into dark tunnels, and that's going to scare you. It's overcoming those fears you've got and completing it basically, and people help you do it. So there'll always be people with the camaraderie getting you through it, helping you. And it's amazing seeing some people overcoming the fears and the challenges that they put in front of themselves. And I loved it, absolutely loved it.
And what really appealed to you about it?
It was that, the overcoming your fears. Electrocution, who likes it? No one likes it, do they? But the fact you're going to run through a load of wires and they're going to get electrocuted, I don't like enclosed spaces. I really hate them. But when you're going through the small tunnels, that really compress you because you've got filled with water bags all either side. It's overcoming. I think I can do that. And every single obstacle was another, I've got that to come now. I've just done that. I can do that. I'll do it again next time. And what I've seen other people as well, that's the main thing for me, seeing other people achieve their goals, it really excites me. Hence the weekend with the friend finishing the ultramarathon. There's nothing better seeing them best of teas at the end.
Well, you've chatted before, and this issue of overcoming challenge and proving that the undoable can be done is something you've continued with.
Yeah.
But Tough Mudder's become quite popular in terms of people having a crack at it. Mm-hmm. But you didn't just have a crack at it. You got to the end of it and decided you wanted to push yourself further. So what happened next?
Well, basically, I started looking at charities and I was looking at people raising money, doing the Tough Mudders, and I thought, well, I need to do some good here. So as well as set myself goals, I could make something for other people. And at the time, one of my colleagues in work, she was pregnant and she got cancer. At the same time, and obviously there's a lot of complications around having pregnancy during cancer, need the treatment you can't have because you're pregnant. Yeah. And a charity called Mummy Star helped her a lot.
Mummy Star?
Mummy Star, yeah. So I thought, I want to raise some money I want to pay something back to them because it really got her through the pregnancy. The baby was born and she got the treatment she needed and she survived and the baby's healthy and she's healthy. So long story short, I thought, well, what's the next challenge after the Tough Mudder? And it was the Europe's Toughest Mudder. So it's a 12-hour event overnight from 8 at night till 8 in the morning. We just continuously do those 5-mile laps of Tough Mudder and all the obstacles, and you continuously do it for the 12 hours and see how many miles you can get in. So basically putting yourself through hell. And by doing that, I raised quite a lot of money. But at the same time, I got contender status for the world's toughest mudder, which is in America, which we can talk about in a minute. Which obviously straight away I thought, well, I've got to go and do that now. And in the end of that year, I ended up going, I'll be going to in a minute, the world's toughest mudder. But I raised £4,500 for the charity. And that's what got me going. And I thought, well, I can do good here. I can do different, set myself goals, put all the plans in place to achieve them. But what was making money for charity? It was amazing. Well,
it certainly is amazing. And obviously you've talked us through what happened at Europe's toughest mudder. I know what happens at the world's toughest mudder, which we will talk about in a moment. This is when things for you started to get serious in terms of the level of commitment you must have had to show. How did your training regime change as you moved from it being like a one-off to this point that you're gradually increasing the level of your achievements?
Yeah, but as we discussed in the past, I hated running at that point. Running was my enemy, but I loved the obstacles. So I was doing a lot of CrossFit training, which is all like, how can I put it? It's all HIIT training. So you're doing high velocity, a lot of weight training, gymnastics, grip strength, going through your cardiovascular training as well. And I wasn't doing much running at that point. Because I kept getting injuries because you're a novice, so I didn't have a coach regard for running. I did for me for CrossFit, but not for me running. So I was getting a lot of injuries, and long story short, I enjoyed the CrossFit that much. I was doing more of that than anything else. I think that hindered me early on. And as I've progressed through my ultra marathons and getting through in more and more miles, I realised that running's the more important part. So my training all that time was CrossFit. Ready for the obstacles more than the actual running itself.
And you mentioned injuries. What sort of injuries were you picking up at this point?
It was IT band injuries, so ITB, so I was getting sore knees all the time. I was getting car strains, which was affecting my Achilles, which was giving me foot pain. So at the time, I was luckily getting a lot of help from, I know you know, a friend of mine, Phil Renton, for Evo Fitness. He was doing a lot of work with me regarding my physio and my massage. And I learned a lot at that point regarding your dynamics of your body and how it works and what you shouldn't be doing. For argument's sake, even though I've done 100 kilometres on Saturday, in the past, I'd have been running again today.
Right.
Because my legs feel okay. But I'd have got injured, if that
You
makes
need your
sense.
recovery time.
So it's recovery time, make sure all the massage you need to do, get it done first, get your body back, and then go to start training again.
And what about nutrition? Because obviously, as you started to step up the pace in terms of the level of your challenges, were you having to think more about diet and macros and calories and taking more on and that sort of thing?
Yeah, at the time, I was doing it wrong at the beginning, like everyone does. At the very beginning, when the first Europe's toughest and then the first world's toughest, I was getting a lot of protein. I was looking at me CrossFit, so I was trying to put weight on, build my muscle up, and it was totally going against what the running side was doing because I needed to obviously if you're carrying 10 kilos extra because you got more muscle on you, over 24 hours on a 24-hour race, that 10 kilos weighs a lot.
Yeah.
So I started realising when I started speaking to people who do a lot of running, it was, well, you're too heavy. You need to reduce that just by 5 or 10 kilos and you'll feel a massive difference. And I have.
Because you've got the classic running physique now, haven't you?
I have at the moment, yeah. If you looked at me 3 or 4 years ago, I wouldn't have, because I was a lot more bigger up top. And that hindered me. It might have been great for the obstacles, but once you've done 3 or 4 hours of obstacles and you're starting to fail them anyway, then it's into a running race.
Yeah.
And then people are whizzing past me and going, well, what's happening here?
So what sort of changes did you have to make at that point in terms of your diet and your nutrition?
Yeah, obviously going through the CrossFit, I was bigger, so I was trying to get all the food in to get the muscle gain back on there and everything else. But then I started looking at the macros. Started how can I cut my weight, make sure I stick to within my calories every day. Into what nutrients I was getting in, a lot more vitamins I was taking. I take a load of vitamins every single day. Basically looking after my body more and keeping the weight down rather than putting it on. And also when I've done a race, I need to recover quicker. So making sure I'm getting the right food in to make sure I get that recovery and sleep. It was massive, getting the sleep in. And even if you can't sleep, the rest, rather than being up and running about everywhere, just chill. Because I got a race. I had a race on Saturday. I've got another 100 kilometres in 2 weeks' time. So I've got to recover.
Yeah,
So
we're going to come to them because, I mean, I can't even imagine how you prep for these things, but we're going to come to that. So you mentioned at this point you'd done Europe's toughest mudder. You then went off to the USA to do world's toughest mudder. So that was in Nevada?
It was in Nevada near Vegas, yeah.
Tell me about that one.
Well, yeah, when I qualified as a contender, I said to the wife, well, I've got to go. We've got to go to Vegas. I'm going to do this in the desert. The coach at the time, as I was saying, the one of my boxing coach, Jim, he was. I went over with him because he was doing it. And made some big mistakes. First of all, I'm not saying taking a wife was a mistake, but what I will say, she was the best help ever. But the day before the race, bear in mind it's in the Nevada desert, it's like 90 odd degrees during the day, you're running for 24 hours, it's in the minus during the night time when it goes as soon as it goes dark. The day before, she said, we're in Vegas for 4 days, Ian, we're going to the Vegas Strip. So I think I walked more miles the day before than I did actually during the race because she wanted to go everywhere we could in Vegas. And by the end of the day, I was knackered. And I thought, I'll just run a race by going up and down the strip in Vegas. But yeah, it was an amazing event. It really was.
So tell us, how was it? How did it? What was the mileage? What were the conditions? What were the climate?
The first mistake I made, I thought the desert was the desert. It was sand. So I've been doing loads of training in Crosby Beach, down on the seafront, on the sand dunes. It's nothing like that whatsoever. It's hard. It's like running on concrete with stones. It's really hard, compact sand. The weather was very hot and dry because obviously it's the desert. But I didn't realise at night time how cold it got. Within 10 minutes of going from daylight to dark, it was freezing. So you're running you have to put your wetsuit on and you're running a wetsuit.
All the time, or just when it goes dark?
Just when it goes dark. So for the 12 hours that it was dark, you were in a wetsuit.
Wow.
And I hadn't been running a wetsuit, so that was new to me. Which it's a bizarre thing to do, to be fair.
And so obviously we've got the picture painted there in terms of very hot in the day, very cold at night. What's the length of the race in terms of sort of mileage and time?
Let's say it's a 24-hour race and you've got a 5-mile lap for the race, and you have to do as many 5-mile laps as you can. But every obstacle, there'll be up to 20 obstacles per lap. If you fail an obstacle, they give you a penalty. So it could be a 300-metre sandbag carry. It could be an extra half-mile run. It could be going through another electric shock obstacle. But no matter how many miles you cover on that lap, it's only counts for 5 miles.
All right, so if you get penalties,
it doesn't matter. You still only get, as soon as you get past the finish line, it's the 5 miles, and you're back in the pit area. That's where if you've got a pit crew, which I had the wife, they can look after you, give you your food, give you any extra clothing you need, any drinks, stuff like that, and then you're back out there straight away. And if you do 50 miles, you get what you call a brown bib, which is what everyone wants. Everyone wants a brown bib. So you do 10 laps, you get a brown bib. But I wanted a dirty brown bib. I wanted to wear that bib to go back out again. And I'll end up doing 60 miles on that one.
Wow.
But there's some horrendous obstacles. You're in water at least 9 times every 5 miles. You're jumping off a cliff at the end of every lap, which is about the size of 2 houses, into water. And then you've got to climb up a rope ladder the other side, swim across and up a rope ladder. It sounds easy, but in the middle of the night, pitch black, freezing cold. It's nerve-wracking.
Let me assure you, it does not sound easy.
Some people find it fun. It's definitely not fun.
Well, tell me about that though, because what you've described there is a whole host of challenges. You've got the actual competitive side, which would challenge anyone.
Yeah.
But you've also got the climate. Were there any points during World's Toughest Mudder where you had to dig in?
Definitely, yeah. The about 3 o'clock in the morning. Obviously, the people who know you best can see signs of illness in you before you can. I remember about 3 o'clock in the morning, I come into the pit, and the wife, Jo, said to me, "Ian, you're not well. You're coming down the hypothermia." I couldn't answer simple questions. I couldn't see it myself, but she was asking me questions. I couldn't answer them. So straight away, it was like, "Ian, get in the tent. Let's get you stripped off. Let's get you dry. What food you want?" And it's amazing, we were saying before about nutrition, your body will tell you what food you want. And it still does now in ultramarathons I'm doing now. I get to a checkpoint, and on that one, it was like, you had the processed packs of ham, like the 50 slices in the pack. I was like, give me them. I just wanted to shove them all in my mouth. And my body wanted the salt and the fat.
Okay.
There was I had a pack of Pringles, salt and vinegar, they all went in straight away. But within 5 minutes, I was bang, up again, let's go.
And what's happening there kind of physiologically? Is your body taking those calories on and then it's ready to go, or is there a mental side
I think it's
to
both, and I think your body's is craving the calories that it needs and the fats and the salts, but your body's also shutting that 3 o'clock in the morning. You should be asleep. Yeah. So your body's saying, pack her in and you're hurting yourself. What are you doing? But it's getting over that, going, okay, I'm now fed. I've now got food inside me. I can go again. And when I got to 50 miles, I've got what I've come for. But then it's, no, let's do it again. Let's go out. So I got my dirty brown bit by getting 55 miles. No, I can go again. I can get 60 here. Let's go again. And even at the end of the race, when I finished, I was over the moon, in tears. At the end of all my races, I cry. I get very emotional. I was in tears. The wife's trying to film me. I'm like, go away. Don't want any cameras in my face while I'm crying, please. And then it's like, I need to come back next year. I could have done better. I've got to do this again.
And you did, didn't you?
Yeah.
Where was the next one in the US as well?
Yeah, in Atlanta, Georgia. Yeah. On the one in Nevada, 96 they came, and there was about 2,500 people who took part.
Wow.
So I was over the moon with that. Bear in mind, I hated running. And next year I wanted to do better. And so I qualified again at Europe. So I went back to Atlanta, Georgia to do it there.
And how did that race differ in terms of the climate and the sort of the terrain compared to Vegas?
A lot different. It wasn't the desert. It was more like our traditional countryside here, to be fair. A lot like a farm. Like I was held in a horse a place where they breed horses. Typical American. It was all very, very posh and nice. Like a ranch. There was a lot of woodland, hills, mud. No sand whatsoever, but I don't know if anyone knows Atlanta, Georgia. Usually it's quite nice there weather-wise, but for some reason, I don't know, microclimate that day, it was -3 for the whole race, the whole 24 hours. So it was 24 hours of a wetsuit because you're underwater 9 times at least, and it was horrendous, that one. It was, I knew, I'll never forget it, on the starting line, I remember looking around me and there's some elite runners there, some really, really well-known runners, and some people have done all the world's toughest mud, and I'm like, they don't want to be here, if that makes sense to you. As in, they were worried because it was so cold. The tents are already frozen. And I was like, I like this. I'm in my comfort zone here. It's like, I think I mentioned to you in the past, it's getting comfortable being uncomfortable. And all the training I've been doing, push myself. Every training session going past where I thought I could go, and to put myself somewhere where I'm comfortable being uncomfortable.
Well, let's unpack that because it's such a great phrase.
Yeah.
Do you mean by that when you reach a stage where your mind is telling you, pack it in, you just become familiar with that and say, no, I won't?
Exactly. It's like it's overcoming the demons. And running to me is exactly the same as life. We've got challenges every single day. And I used to be a person who used to worry about everything. I used to stay awake till 3 o'clock in the morning, worrying what was happening the next day. But then I'd still wake up the next morning and still go to work. I still overcome those challenges. And the next night to be, well, I've got through the day and I'm back home now. I'm having my tea again. Why am I starting to stress about that? It's like the same about running. For example, on Saturday at the ultramarathon there, when your mind's saying stop at 50 miles and my legs are still going, well, I've just done another 5 steps. So I can do another 5 steps. I've just reached another mile, so I can go another mile. So your mind's saying you're uncomfortable, but I'm happy with that now. I know I can get over it. I can reach past it. And that's what about being comfortable, being uncomfortable. So.
And it's so interesting you make that comparison with life, because you are right in that when we're faced with challenges, it's interesting because we had Gemma Ray on podcast a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And Gemma was talking about this as well, about don't get too hung up on what's sort of 5 miles down the road. Maybe focus on the next mile.
That's it. And I watched Gemma, it was a very good podcast, and I agree with what she was saying, but I also say, well, I've got my own spin in that as well, whereas I mentioned no matter what big race I've got, I always make sure before I do that race, I've got another one booked. So I can't rest on my laurels, you know what I mean? So it'd be easy to reach that goal and stop and say, I've done it now, but no, I've got another one booked, so I've got to start looking at that one. So what steps do I need to put in place? It's like the MDS next year. I booked my races this year to plan for next year's race. And before I go and do MDS, I'll make sure I've got something else booked. And the year after is guided towards that, if that makes sense to you.
Totally.
So we can go into this year's training later on.
Definitely.
I'll explain what that means.
Well, it's a good point to break, actually. But just before we do, you did World's Toughest Mother in Atlanta, Georgia. Yeah. You came 96th in Vegas. We're waiting for it. Yeah. Where did you come in that one?
Come 26th in that one.
Wow.
So I was over the moon.
And that's out of 2,500 people?
Yeah. Beyond my wildest dreams, getting 26th. I was gobsmacked. I'd done 70 miles on that one. But I think I'd done about 78, 79 with the penalties, but actually qualified 70. So I was over the moon with that.
Well done, you. And guys, you ain't heard nothing yet, because we're at the end of part 1, but we haven't even got stuck into the ultra marathons, which have become Ian's staple. Ian's mentioned Marathon des Sables, which is next year. We're going to be talking a lot more about training, a lot more about the preparation, the mental toughness that Ian's been able to develop, and of course, what's in the future for Ian as well. So stick with us. It's going to be a fantastic part 2. See you back with Ian Jones, other side of half time.
Hello friends, it's half time. Reminder that I make a recommendation every week. Also, please bear in mind that I'm not a dietitian or a doctor. So when I recommend anything food-wise, this is just what works for me. You need to check out if it works for you. My recommendation this week is for anyone like me who's looking to eat better, but who also likes the odd sweet treat. Recommendation is Pulsin Keto Bar. That's Pulsin Keto Bar. We'll put it on our socials. It's low sugar, it's high in protein, it's low in carbs, it's plant-based. It's really good if you're trying to eat better. I can't find it anywhere in supermarkets, but we have a fantastic local independent health shop where you can get them. I would recommend them. And now it's back to the podcast with Ian Jones.
And we're back with Ian Jones. How's the Weetabix drink going down, sir?
Going down very well, thank you.
It's very tasty, isn't it?
I have to go for a run now.
Yeah. So we've talked about this unbelievable achievement you had in the early part of your career. You've gone through the tough mudders. You've done fantastically well. Now you reached a stage where you started what I would think of as more the sort of classic running, just upping your mileage and focusing purely on running. What was the first what was the first event or achievement that sticks in your mind?
Yeah, as I say, I hated running. I wanted to overcome that. So I thought I have to give myself something that's going to make me want to run and train for running. So I've always wanted to see how far I could go. Someone said, well, you can never run 100 miles. So I thought, yeah, I can. And rather than do it for a race, again, I want to do it for charity. So there's a young lad, he was 2 at the time, little Mark, who unfortunately, when he was 1, he lost his leg. He had to get cut off. He was born with a disability in his leg, and he lost his leg. Now the NHS provides certain prosthetics, but he wanted a spring to go and play football with his brother and his friends out in the street. And I knew it was going to be around £3,500 for a prosthetic spring. It's from a mutual friend, was a friend of his family. So I wanted to go and raise £3,500 to get him that spring or put money towards it. So I thought I'll go and run 100 miles. So I chose to run from Leeds and on the canal and run all the way down to Bearscough in Lancashire, near the edge of Liverpool, which was 106 miles. So I got dropped off there with some friends on the bikes behind me.
I mean, it was just you, was it? It wasn't part of an event.
It wasn't part of an event. It was just me. I decided to do it for charity. Must be crazy. I thought, if I do it for a race, I want to do something. There's everyone else to get me through it as a part of a race. I want to really test myself. I want to do it myself, no one else, and just get out there and run it. So I chose a date. Let's go and do it. And started at 5 o'clock in Leeds with three of my friends on bikes, and we set off and I ran the whole route.
And so 100 miles, how long does that take you?
It took me 23 hours, 22 minutes. Very painful 23 hours and 22 minutes.
So, I mean, obviously there would be times you had to stop, but I mean, it was like a no rest one,
no
was
rest,
it?
Yeah. It was basically, I stopped at Blackburn for a bacon sandwich, which I'd ordered for me from one of the local cafes there. So I stopped about 10 or 15 minutes to eat that. And all the other times I didn't stop. It was just constant running. So all the other times I ate on the go, drank on the go, except for that 10 or 15 minutes. And
what's happening to the guys on the bikes, like giving you the food and the water and whatnot?
Yeah, they were giving me water and me gels and stuff like that. I use Manuka gels, which are very good for me, the only ones I can stomach. Give me all the nutrients that I need. And also bits of food, sweets. And I have things like that. I have a lot of donuts and stuff like that to get the fats inside me. And then I also had a van that was meeting us every, say, 20 miles, just any change of clothing that I needed or whatever, because the weather was off. I always choose bad weather for some reason. Again, it was raining. It was in August, but it was pouring down. So yeah, they were helping me with any extra jackets that I needed or anything else, or any first aid that I needed. It was just, that was more of a safety blanket for me.
Yeah, of course.
In case anything happened.
And just you mentioned what you were eating along the way there. I mean, how many calories did you burn on a 100-mile run?
I can't remember how many it was on that one, but for argument's sake, on the weekend just gone, that was 100 kilometres. That was just over. It was 64 miles. I'd done 9,500 calories on that.
Wow. So, I mean, are you having to take that number of calories on during the day? No, it'd be tough, wouldn't it?
It takes 3 or 4 days afterwards to build that up again and get your body's constantly tired for 3 or 4. I'm tired. My body feels tired. You know, I'm not in any pain. I can feel I'm tired. If I walk a distance, I'm tired quite easy. That's just your body getting more calories in.
And are you having, as part of your recovery, because I totally get what you mean, you couldn't possibly take on that amount, particularly because you're running during the day. Are you having to actually monitor and track what you're taking on to make sure your recovery is effective?
Yeah, I say I'm a lot of protein at the moment to get my body, help my muscles repair. But also people stop. It makes me laugh. People take all the energy drinks and the gels when they're running, but then they stop taking them. Like I don't take them for a couple of days. So in my breakfast this morning, I had some porridge. I put one of my Manuka gels in that, with all the nutrients in that, just to make sure my body's still getting everything that I needed, all the carbohydrates that my body that has lost, get them back in again. So it's just making sure your body recovers.
So we're going to come to that because it's very important, bearing in mind what else you've got on this year, that you do that recovery.
Yeah.
But so this fantastic 100-mile race from Yorkshire to sort of Lancashire, Liverpool for charity. Then you got more involved with charity then, didn't you? In terms of, was it Brooks?
Yeah, but Brooks is not a charity. Brooks is it's a company that make trainers for running.
Oh, sorry, okay.
But long story short on that, I joined I was lucky enough to be invited into the Brooks Run Happy team, which is like an ambassador for Brooks. But it's a great team, and their philosophy is run happy. So it's all about people who of all shapes and sizes, of all different backgrounds, all different strengths and weaknesses, getting out there and just running. They're not looking at, there's some companies that it's all about elite performance. This is not. This is about being comfortable, getting out there, smile and enjoy being out in the open while you're running and getting a smile on your face. It's like runfulness. So it's, I don't know if people might be able to understand what I'm saying, where you go out for a run and you might run a mile and you think, I can't remember going around that bend, because you've been thinking about in your own space. You can't answer your phone. There's no one emailing you. There's no one pestering you. It's your own space, your own time, just to get yourself ready. Like, if you look on my Strava, most of my runs are 6 a.m, 5 a.m, and that's just me clearing my head before I go to work. I've got quite a stressful job, so it's empty my mind, so I can go into my work and I'm in a happy place. If that makes sense.
Well, that's interesting. So I can understand what you mean, because you're almost forcing yourself away from the likes of social media and phone calls. I mean, how, in terms of this ambassadorial role you had and this group you had, Run Happy, was that part of the ethos of what it was all about?
It is, yeah. And I think that's one of the reasons why they asked me to be part of their ambassadorship, is because everything I do on my social media is about bettering myself, bettering other people, reaching your goals, but also being happy. There's no such thing as a bad run. Every run, no matter how hard it is, no matter what the weather's like, it's always a good run, because you've been out there, you've done it, and you've got over it. So that's their ethos.
And what was it? What were some examples of the people you encountered or that you met through Brooks? Were you have found some people who were in a tough place and who sort of got benefit from running? Yeah,
it's all different shapes and sizes, different backgrounds. There's a lot of people who have got a lot of mental health issues. A lot of people who have come back from quite bad illnesses and injuries. And everyone helps each other. There's other people over stressful jobs. There's one called the Stormtrooper Runner, and he's been in the military. He's been to some tough war zones, but he's just run 1,000 miles in a Stormtrooper outfit for charity. And these people overcoming little goals or big goals, to make other people's lives happy. Sorry,
it's amazing. And obviously, that's something you feel really passionate about in terms of this issue of helping. Yeah. I mean, I'm jumping about a little bit here, but when you're running, when your career as an athlete, and obviously you're in the police as well, really important job in the police, when that comes to an end, would this be something which you saw as something you could spend more of your time doing?
Yeah, one thing I'd love to do in the future when I retire is it's the sort of events that I've been doing, like the MDS and other things I want to do in the future, which we'll talk about later, most probably. I'd like to be able to coach people to do it. So if people set themselves a goal they think's unachievable, no, you can do it. I'll get you through it with you. So rather than just being a running coach where I'll help you every day, I'd want to help you get a goal. I'll go and run it with you because I've done it. So if I can do it, you can do it, and I'll help you through that. And that's my ethos. That's what I want to do. It's like little Mark who with the leg. I wanted him on my arm when I was doing a 100-mile run. I got a marker pen just put on my hand. Run so Mark can. So every time I wanted to give in, I just looked at my hand, and it was run so Mark can. So I wanted to get Mark a spring so we could go and run. So I want to help people get out there and do it.
That's an incredible motivation. And it's inspirational.
Well, he turned up at the halfway, about 50, 60 mile mark. He turned up, and it was horrendous. I think.
Tell me about that.
His dad Dave is a great bloke, and I love him to bits. But he turned up about the 50 to 60 mile mark, and I could see him in the distance. And I just burst into tears when I saw him. I thought, no, please, not now, not now.
Oh, that's amazing.
So it was great to see him, really was. And it really spurred me on to make me realise that this is what I'm doing it for. It really, it's worth it. And And then he was there at the end as well, which was even more emotional at the end.
Oh, it's tremendous. It's so inspiring. So, I mean, that's sort of, I mean, there's lots of things I know that have happened in the in-between, but we're got to come to this year and next year, because it's an incredible period of your career as an athlete. So, first of all, talk us through, let's do this in stages. Talk us through what the next couple of months hold. Obviously, you've mentioned you've done your ultra marathon this past weekend. What else have you got on the next couple of months?
There's been a few more as well, to be fair. I wanted to, my first part of the year, I wanted to look at the mileage. So get mileage when my legs are tired. So I did a Coniston marathon 2 weeks ago. So that's obviously 26 miles in the lakes. Then I've just done the race to Castle, which was 100k. It was 64 miles. In 10 days' time, I've got another 100k in the lakes, which is, I think it's 13,000 feet of elevation involved in that, so it's even tougher.
Is that a trail marathon?
No, it's a trail ultra marathon, yeah. So it's going to be 64 miles, it's going to be, because I know it's a bit longer than the 100k.
64 miles?
Yeah. But
and that's up inclines?
13,000 feet of elevation, yeah. So it's a very tough one.
Good Lord.
And then 2 weeks after that,
how many Weetabix drinks do you need for
that? Quite a few. And funny enough, on that one, I've already got, hopefully they can make it. I've got some friends who can meet me out in certain places and give me the extra food that I need. And it'll be Weetabix, or it'll be Yazoo. I'll have the Yazoo milkshakes as well.
Oh, yeah.
And also in April, I ran the Manchester to Liverpool ultra marathon as well. So that's from Old Trafford. Sorry to say that name. And to Aintree Racecourse. And that was 50 miles. I come 16th in that, so I was over the moon with that. That was more of a race rather than a sort of my usual plodding. It was a flat route, so it was a race.
So I mean, there, and then I know that as you move through the year, the frequency of these marathons and ultra marathons really gets up.
Yeah.
What does the rest of the year look like?
Yeah, then I wanted something where they've got some like 2 weeks apart from all the races. Then I wanted something where it's like bang, bang, bang. So in October, I've got the London Marathon, which I'm really looking forward to. The iconic marathon, isn't it? The week after, Manchester Marathon. And then 2 weeks after that is the Liverpool Marathon. But I help out at the Run Fit Expo, which is the expo for the rock and roll marathon here in Liverpool. I do some speaking on the stage there. But on the Friday and Saturday, I'm going to do each day a treadmill marathon. And anyone who goes running knows how bad treadmills are. So it's going to be a treadmill marathon on the Friday, treadmill marathon on the Saturday, then do the proper Liverpool marathon on the Sunday. So it'll be 3 marathons in 3 days.
Right, well, we've got to spend some we've got to go back to this issue of recovery and preparation, because, I mean, that's on a different scale.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned earlier about how at this present time where you've got these ultra marathons in quick succession, you're having to not just think about what happens on the day of the race, but in the week after, where you've got these marathons which are just literally one after the other.
Yeah.
What's your body doing then? And how do you prepare, recover, and sort of cope through that level of intensity?
It's going to be a lot of sleep for a start. You don't get your sleep, your body won't recover. But getting the food in, trying to get as much calories in as you can. I've got to be honest, I don't think I'll be looking at what kind of calories they are, as long as the calories.
Absolutely.
But fluid's massive on that, because you need to get your fluid in, because I'll be losing a lot of fluid. And it'll be the dehydration will get me before anything else.
And how do you cope? I mean, is there a way of, do you get that actually tested during the recovery period to check your hydration?
I've had tests in the past regarding what my sweat's made up of and how much I sweat from a company that did that for me. And on the back of that, I use salt tablets. We've got at the strength I need them. And also I've got tablets that go in the water that dissolve, that give me the nutrients quicker in there. So I'll be using that for my hydration, but drinking loads, but then sleeping loads as well.
Yeah.
And getting as much food in as I can, but carbohydrates more than anything else.
Obviously, there's lots of things people say about carbohydrates. I mean, I know that with you it won't be an issue, but how much do you listen to sort of new fad diets, or do you just keep it nice and simple?
It's what works for you.
Yeah.
Everyone's different, and everyone says, well, this training plan's great, or that train. My wife runs, she's doing her first ultramarathon in 10 days' time as well. And her training plan wouldn't work for me. She sticks to it rigid, and the miles she does is a lot more, higher mileage than I do over a certain day for me training. I get injured if I did her mileage. So I couldn't follow her plan. Everyone's doing exactly the same with your nutrients. Something that works for me wouldn't work for you. So it's just knowing your body, knowing what it can take. A lot of people have toast and croissants or whatever before they run. I can't do that. It makes me want to throw up. If I have something, I I'd rather have like a sausage roll in halfway through an ultra marathon rather than something sweet. Something sweet, sometimes it makes me balk because your body just doesn't want it.
Well, it's that issue, isn't it, of listening to your body? What do you want?
Yeah.
Incredible. So you've got a busy old year ahead. Now, you've got to tell me, Marathon des Sables. Talk us through what it is, Ian.
No, first of all, I'm doing it all for charity again. Everything I'm doing this year and next year, Marathon des Sables, is for a charity called Walk Once More, which is they look after people with spinal cord injury and they're looking for trying to get a cure for spinal cord injuries. And that's again, it's something where Mark was something that really close to me. So was the Mummy Star. This is my brother got knocked off his motorbike quite a few years ago and nearly lost the use of his legs. My sister's got spina bifida. So something that I thought, I want to pay something back there if I can. So yes, long story, all my races are for that. And they, luckily enough, they do sponsorship for Marathon des Sables, which it's down as the toughest foot race in the world. It's in Morocco in the Sahara Desert. And you're out there for 6 days, 5 of which of them you're running. It's self-sufficient, so you can your own food, your own clothing, your own water for the 5 days. And each day they give you a certain mileage that you've got to do, and it adds up to around 250 kilometres over the 5 days. But one of those days is a 46-mile run on one of the days. So I think it's the third day you're doing 46 miles, and the day after that you're doing a marathon. So it's quite intense.
Well, talk to me about this then. So the Sahara, climate-wise, is it April next year?
Yes, yeah.
So climate-wise, what's the Sahara like then in terms of the days and the nights? Anything
between 110, 120 degrees during the day. So really, really hot. It's the humidity more than anything. And nighttime it can get down to the minuses. Sandstorms are very common during the day and night. And unfortunately, the tent on tent, the bivouac, so it's like a blanket with 2 poles. So it's got no sides on them. So it's all open. There's no internet. They manage to get you 1 email a day you can send out if you're lucky enough to get it. And the food's all the dried food. So again, it's all even more than you've got to really look at your nutrients on that.
Well, I was going to say, because I mean, not number one, you got to look at your nutrients, but number 2, you got to be able to carry it.
Yeah.
So do you mean that? Do you have your food with you for just that day or for the whole 6 days?
The whole 6 days.
So what is your food for that then?
It's all expedition food. So it's dried food where you add water to it, and you can either eat it cold, or if you want to carry a burner with you, a lot of people do take a burner, the little tiny expedition burners. You can cook it and heat it up with water. But a lot of people have it cold just to save on the weight, because again, every kilo you carry extra for them 6 days is a lot of weight, isn't it?
And again, is it carb heavy? Presumably those, the dried foods, pastas, rices, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's a lot of chilies and stuff like that, and spaghetti bolognese and stuff like that. So again, it's just getting luckily, the companies that do it for you know what race you're doing, and you do specific for your race. But it's not the best food in the world, is it?
No, I suppose not. But so that's interesting. So there are actually companies out there who understand what you're going through during that challenge and pitch your nutrients and your sort of meal plan accordingly.
Yeah. There's companies out there that do it for you, and it's because it's just a bespoke race. It's the race that all runners really want to do if it's on their bucket list, because it's the toughest one to do. As in, with it's not the distance, it's everything else put together. It's the fact that you have got to do your own food, the fact that it is very, very hot, the fact that the distance, as in the 3rd day, is a massive distance, followed by the next day a marathon. Everything all together is just, it's a massive event, isn't it?
And do you just have to accept that you're not really going to be able to recover at any point during these 6 days, and that you just have to keep your body ticking until the end and then recover then?
It's everything. You just got to understand that you're going to have blisters, a lot of them. They have doctors there. They have a tent at the end of every day stage, and it's called Dr. Trotters. And every single person's feet get looked at, because you will get bad blisters. The biggest DNF, do not finish, is all around blisters on feet. And you've had people with the whole bottom of the feet come off because of the heat. You can imagine you get one bit of sand inside your shoe, it's going to wreck it. So you've got to wear gaiters to stop any sand from getting in. But when it does get in, it destroys your feet.
And how do you prepare then for the climate aspect? Because obviously you're doing this unbelievable schedule of training. But how do you prepare for that heat?
starting from, I say, around January time, I'll already start. I've always started looking at how I can seal me garage up with me treadmill in. So I'll seal it all up, get some heaters in there. So get used to my body working hot, very hot showers, and also you can book into a heat chamber as well. There's certain places that have heat chambers where with treadmills in, so you can go into a heat chamber and run basically. So yeah,
that's like a gym, is it then?
It's not. Mostly it's universities have them. So a lot of sports universities have them, and you can pay to go in there. And you run on a treadmill, and they can change the humidity to what you need it to be, and they can replicate the Sahara Desert for you. Yeah,
incredible. And I mean, we've talked about this mental resilience you've had to build up. Mm-hmm. I think that's going to have to be about as tough as possible, isn't it, when you're halfway through in the Sahara?
That's everything, isn't it? You think about it, you're away for 6 days, I've got a family, and that's the big thing. I'm not an elite runner. I'm not an elite athlete. I'm a dad of 3 children. I've got a job that's quite stressful. I've got my wife who works shifts as well. So I've got a lot going on, but I'm going away for, it's 6 days in the desert, but it's going to be like 10 days away from home. I can't speak to my kids. I can't speak to the wife. They can send emails out to you and you give them to you. Do you want to read them or do you not want to read them? You're allowed as many incoming emails as you want, but you only had one going out. So again, that's all playing with your mind. Do you want to read them or don't you? Now, you speak to people. Some people have loved having them. Some people have hated having them.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
Yeah, so do you want to cut off and just, you're in the zone, or do you want that comfort of, everyone's okay at home and everyone's giving you the, as I said before, how emotional again some of the runs I've had. Do you want to be crying every night because you've got a message from your children? It's tough, isn't it? So it's all those decisions and getting through those mental barriers, as well as knowing, well, I've got all that. I've still got to run 50 miles tomorrow in the heat, in the sand, up and down sand dunes.
And there's a big emotional, there's a big psychological aspect of being able to achieve that run. So I suppose you have to manage your emotions, your psychological well-being, the same as way as you're managing your physical well-being.
Yeah. Well, it isn't. It's having that mind game as well, where if you want to race it, which we all get competitive, don't we, in certain ways. And I want to do well, but quite a lot of people, in fact, majority of people that go over there, if you get dehydrated, they end up putting a drip on you. And as soon as you put a drip in your arm, you get a time penalty. I think it's 2 hours, something like that. So that's going to put you down the listings. So there's some great videos about it, and you watch it. People are fighting. I don't want the drip, because they want to do well. But it's what comes first is your goal. You're setting your head, I want to come in that level, or is my health? And which one is it first? How long can I last? Now, I know my mum and my wife will be saying, you're taking that trip in.
Yeah, I think you should.
Yeah.
Remind me, what was the name of the charity you're doing this for?
Walk Once More.
Walk Once More.
But people go onto my Instagram and my social medias. It's all on there, me Just Giving. If you go through me Just Giving, everyone wants to donate, please do. It's a great charity.
Well, we're going to get both Ian's Instagram and Walk Once More on our socials. Because it's an incredible thing you're doing, Ian, and I'm sure people will want to support you. When all this draws to a conclusion, you've mentioned what comes next. Yeah. I mean, have you got like a date in mind where you're thinking, right, that's the point where I've done everything I want to do and I'm knocking it on the head?
No.
Have you not?
I've already got my next goal in mind, which is UTMB, the Ultra Trail Mont Blanc. You've got to qualify for that with a certain amount of points.
So what's that in the Alps then, is it?
It's in the Alps, yeah. Basically starts in France and it goes round into Italy, Switzerland, then back into France, but over Mont Blanc and all the peaks around there. It's 100 miles and it's a crazy amount of elevation. You go through snow, you go through heat, you go through everything. It's a great event and it's something I want to go and see if I can push myself to do. So.
You're a savage, mate. Listen, listen, it's been overwhelming in terms of your achievements, Ian. It's just been, it's everything this podcast about. It's about succeeding through struggle. Yeah. And that's what most successful people do. And the fact that you've been able it's not that long ago you did this first Tough Mudder. And to be doing this run in the Sahara, having achieved all you have for yourself and for the charities you've supported, is everything what we're all about on the podcast. So, first of all, well done. But the question I always finish all of my guests with is, what does success mean to you?
Facing up to what fears you. What fears have you got? And how you can attack it and how you can overcome that fear. And challenge yourself. Keep on challenging yourself. Keep on pushing yourself to the next level and achieve it.
And if there's someone listening to this who's set themselves a goal but is doubting themselves, would you have any advice for them?
Just go for it. Go for it. I'd rather go for it and think I could have done better than not go for it at all. And think I wish I'd have gone for that. So just go for it. If you don't get it first time, keep going, get advice, and then go again.
Got to keep doing it.
You keep going.
What was it you said? Be comfortable feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah. And keep being awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I've been very comfortable meeting you, mate. It's been really, really great. I enjoyed the Weetabix.
Yep.
We've got to get you booked in for after you've done the Marathon des Sables, because we'd love to have you back, and we'll have something a bit stronger than that to toast your success.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Ian Jones, everyone.
Thank you.
Hey.
So Ian Jones, what an athlete.
Yes, what an athlete. Particularly bearing in mind that Ian only started running very seriously about 5 years ago. To think of his achievements and his determination to move each stage to the next level is quite remarkable. And I enjoyed hearing about it, not just about the goals he's achieved, but about the different strategies he's had to employ to do it. So hearing him talk just about his nutrition, I thought was fascinating. And you can see how seriously he thinks about it in terms of his preparation and in terms of his recovery.
Defo, did you learn any tips from him then?
I'm not going to start running any ultra marathons if that's what you get.
No 50-mile bike rides?
Well, yeah, I mean, insofar as I think that definitely what will resonate with most people, the phrase Ian used on a number of occasions is becoming comfortable in feeling uncomfortable. And I can totally understand how that applies to ultramarathon running, because the whole nature of it must be that you're in pain for sometimes. But I think we've all been in situations of struggle and where we want to stop and we want to give up. And what I took from Ian's really inspiring examples was that you have to continue to persuade yourself that you can achieve your goals. And the fact that Ian's done what he's done and has these unbelievable plans for the next phase of his career as an athlete, I think is good evidence of that.
100%. I think he's going to have to remember that when he does a marathon in the Sahara, though, or in the desert.
Well, yeah, I mean, to me, that's just the most incredible feat of endurance. And what was interesting was that even though he's got the best part of 12 months before he does it, Ian's already really thinking seriously about the challenge ahead. I mean, to hear about the sort of training he's doing in these simulated heat situations, and he's already thinking about what food he will need, about the emotional stress he'll be under, because he'll be on his own, he'll be in the desert, he'll be away from the family. I just found him an inspiring character.
Oh, 100%.
But also a very what's the word? He came across as someone who could persuade anyone that they can achieve their goals.
A motivator.
A motivator.
We'll use motivator.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely, you're after my job, aren't you?
I am. Welcome to my podcast, guys.
And on that note, guys, Ian Jones was a fantastic guest. I really hope you enjoyed hearing Ian's story as much as we did. And this is Success Won't Come Calling. It's the podcast for people who want to be better tomorrow than they were today. I'll see you all again soon.
Bye.